I like board games that tell stories. They may be actually some of my favorite games. Games that have a stronger theme, an immersive setting that you really feel like you are there. Games that generate in-game events that follow one another in a way that the players will perceive them as a narrative. I love this kind of game. I like it so much that I wrote a whole book about them. Storytelling in the Modern Board Game, published by McFarlane, if I may be so crass as to mention it. And games in the last couple of years have really invented amazing ways of telling stories. There have been a price to pay, which is of course replayability. The more games have really managed to reproduce the narrative power of fiction, such as film or literature, well, the more have had to jettison their traditional value, which is replay value. You can play certain games over and over again for years. In truth, a novel, even a novel that you like a lot, chances are in your life you will not read it more than 10, 15, 20 times. Even if you do it, that's an anomaly. I'm sure that you don't do that for all of your books, as opposed to we kind of expect that you learn a new game and you should be able to play 10, 15, 20 times. So to have games that have the intensity, the complexity, the plot twist of fiction, you have to, pretty much to hide secrets that will be revealed during gameplay, and then boom, that's how a game can have the same plot twist as a story. But precisely because of that, then those ideas will not be playable forever. So Chronicles of Time, I guess that was a long introduction to tell you. Chronicles of Time perfectly fit this recent trend of games that tell incredibly vivid, incredibly story-oriented stories. Well, there were games back in the day that allegedly had a theme but didn't feel that way. But basically, Chronicles of Crime is a game that really feels like interactive fiction. And precisely because of that, it has all of the amazing plot twists and expressive possibilities of fiction, and at the same time it has again the limited replayability, the fact that you can go back to the story on a certain number of times before there is much left for you to do. So it is a game that needs to be quote-unquote reloaded. It comes with a number of playable scenarios, and then if you want to keep playing after you're done with those, well, some of those actually you can play them again and try to get a better score because maybe you didn't discover everything that was there. But after a while, you need to reload it by purchasing new scenarios. It is an app-enhanced game, so you need a way of playing an app, and actually you need some device that plays the app and also has a scanning function, as you will see that is very important. And as for the theme and the setting, it's a mystery story, it's a mystery game. So on top of that, the genre that in fact more than any other genre is based on discovering a secret, and then the genre that more than any other, once you know the secret, well, you lost 90 or 80% of what the game has to do, what the story can offer. So what we have here, an intensely narrative game with limited replay value. The question, of course, is it worth it? Because we do read books knowing that we won't be reading them forever, but we still have a blast if the book is good. So is Chronicles of Crime one of these games with a strong narrative element that is in fact so good that it makes up for the limited replay value? Well, we'll talk about that. One thing I didn't mention is cooperative, but this is important. And because of that, and there is no secret information among the players, it is also perfectly playable in solitaire mode. Now, without further ado, Chronicles of Crime. The game comes with a board that you will place in the middle of the table, and you will use to organize the various cards and other elements that form the story that you will be experiencing. Here you have a slot where you will place cards representing different types of characters, especially characters that are not tied to a specific place. You have cards such as this one or this one that will enter play when the game tells you that that location becomes relevant. Then you place it next to the board, and now it counts as an active location. You can interact with it, and it also has slots where you will place characters that are physically present in that location. We'll see later how that works exactly. We have then, in fact, cards representing different types of characters. These cards and these portraits will represent different type of characters in different scenarios. I think of them as actors that are playing in different episodes of a TV show, and they're playing different characters and different mysteries. And then we have cards representing clues, different types of items that again you will interact with. One deck representing general items, general clues is face up, and you can look at it freely at any time. The other one is face down, and you can draw cards from it only when instructed to do so. And then we have 4 experts that are your allies, and you can contact and try to get their help. The scientist, the hacker, the criminologist, and the doctor. And, well, everything that you do takes time, so also getting to use the help of these people is very useful. But if you just mechanically, systematically scan every clue, ask for help from every expert, then you're simply probably going to take too much time to be able to win the game, and that is a problem. You need to make smart decisions. Now, to start the game, you need to launch the app. So you go on your phone and you close the Stephen King audiobook that you were listening to, as it's not mandatory, but I don't know, it kind of helps the atmosphere really. And you launch the Chronicles of Crime app from Lucky Duck Game. Now, important disclaimer, what you're gonna see here is entirely fictional. I want to give you absolutely no spoilers, so I'm pretty much going to give you a sense of how the game works by completely making up the content. So what you see here is totally my invention. If there isn't overlapping with actual content in the game, completely random. As you can see, the app also is announced in different expansions that will come out later, such as the Noir and the Welcome to Redview. What it comes with is London's Forensic, but not all of the cases that you see here. In fact, the game comes with a tutorial, with a mini campaign, The Power Behind, which has 3 cases that are related to one another. You can play them as one shot or one after the other, then they go and form an overarching story. And then you have 2 more stories. You have The Curse of the Pharaohs, and Every Rose Has Its Thorn. And then there are 2 other missions available now, 2 other mysteries, Secret Report and Devil's Kitchen, which are not included in the game. You have to pay $5 to unlock them. As you can see, I did, because I really like the game. And pretty much I bought and I played every mission that I could possibly find. And I can't wait for these other mysteries to be revealed so I can buy those too. Hey, did they? No, available Q4. So there will be more stuff coming out. So again, you just open the mystery that you want to play, you click, you play it, and I was almost saying, and you take it from there. The game is very intuitive. The game is very intuitive in that basically you will scan things so to unlock new content that will unlock new cards, and you continue like this until you are asked to solve the mystery. Some mysteries are, say, time sensitive. There will be a time of the day in which you're told, now do you have the solution? And the app will ask you a list of questions. Who did it and why and what happened there and who killed the butler? It's a fictional question. And depending on the answers that you have at that point, you'll score a number of points and you'll see if you lose or win. Suppose, for example, that you open the app and the app tells you that this person was found dead in her apartment in Camden, where she used to live with her 2 roommates. Now her body's at the morgue, so it is not there anymore. And maybe again, and you also know that she used to work for this other person in an office in Westminster. What you're going to do now is, well, to start interacting. You can't really talk to her because she's dead, and you cannot talk to them either because the game starts in Scotland Yard. You're assumed to be in Scotland Yard at the beginning of the game. But the general idea is that if you're in a location with a character, if you scan the character, you start talking with that character. You enter in a conversation menu, and when you're in the conversation menu with a certain character, anything that you scan indicates that you're talking about that thing or that person or that place with that person. For example, if I enter a conversation with this character by scanning, then on my phone it will show that I'm talking to her. And while I'm talking to her, if I scan this card, I'm pretty much asking her about her roommate. If when I'm in conversation with her, if I scan this card, I'm asking her about the roommate that died. If I'm asking about clues that I found earlier, say I identified office materials that are interesting, I scan her, and then I scan this one. Now I'm asking her about those office materials that I saw. To go to a location, well, I guess you guessed it. You scan the place, the symbol of the location, and that will unlock the people there. Or will it? Because in a sense I would say that the cards that are in locations indicate where you think people are. Maybe I go there because, again, I've been told that the roommates lived there. And I'm told that right now, presently, this person is not there, and they don't tell me where they are. Well, the other roommate is presently in the city, but who tells me that? Oh, there you go. It is the landlord. It is, was it? Yeah, they were living in Camden. So it's the person that they rent the apartment from, and whom I find there. So actually, when you get there, you may learn about where people are. And people are not necessarily stationary. They're not just waiting for you. In fact, you may learn, oh, this person will be in that park at that time of day. And remember, every action that you do, that you perform, takes time. And so depending on the time of the day, certain actions will be available or not available. Certain people will be in certain places. And maybe certain people will be dead. So, go to meet them before then. Something that you will do during the game is to scan virtual spaces. So, for example, suppose that I'm going here to the apartment of the victim, and I want to scan the apartment. The menu will give me an option. Do you want to check the apartment? Then if I say yes, virtual landscape will appear here on my phone, and by turning it around, I'll be looking at different parts, the ceiling, the floor, left and right, etc., etc. If I'm playing solo, then, well, I'm just trying to take in as many details as I can. If I'm playing co-op, I also need to report on saying, well, I'm seeing that there is a closet that seems interesting, and I see a jacket hanging from a hanger, and there's a weird kind of like Cthulhu symbol on the floor. Also, there is a flower, a vase of flowers that somehow seems interesting. So basically, I'm trying to come up with as many things that seem interesting as possible. Once I'm done with that, once I'm done scanning, well, I have the chance of scanning again, because you only have a limited amount of time. And again, you will spend more in-game time if you scan again. Once my group and I are satisfied, then I take this deck of clues and I go through it, simply identifying things that pretty much I want to analyze. Scanning these cards after I look at the menu look at the virtual space corresponds to zooming in, analyzing, investigating those things. The jacket probably counts under clothes. Signs and symbols. Oh yeah, the Cthulhu symbol on the floor. And then actually maybe as I'm going through these plants, there were flowers that seemed to be interesting. And as I go through it, I realized, wait a second, I think there was also like a jewel, there was also like a ring under the bed. Let's see if I was correct or not. So you go through, oh, wait a second, there was a bookshelf with some books in the back. You go through it and then you can actually go back and do it again. Was there a bag somewhere? Maybe there was. So you select the things that you want to scan, and you could potentially scan them all, but the thing will be terribly boring, I guess. And also the problem is that you will spend a lot of in-game time. So again, you need to select what you're looking for. At this point, when I'm the menu of the virtual space, say I scan this one, and the app tells me what I find, which may be something very interesting or maybe nothing, but maybe like, well, the book is a book about this and that, and now I have that information, and I put this on the board as one of the clues that may be relevant. The jewelry, maybe there was something interesting too. Inside the furniture, I scanned this one, and I'm told that inside the furniture, I found I find something interesting. For example, I find an ancient jewel. This is from the special deck. It tells me, go and get special clue number 5. Oh, and there's a strange, mysterious artifact. And then I click on that one and I may learn something else. So for example, there may be a secret compartment in it that shows the portrait of this person here. So as you can see, simply content unlock different contents. And suppose that they do have these things, and now maybe I go and talk to that roommate and ask her, hey, have you ever seen, hey, what do you think about your friend? Oh, she was a great person. Hey, have you ever seen that one? No, I've never seen that item. That is so weird. But have you heard of this person? There was a portrait of him. Oh, yes, of course. He works for that person, or he's doing this and that thing. Remember, you can also ask for help from your friends. For example, I'm going to ask the hacker. I contact the hacker, and the hacker finds out that the victim was very active in social media. She was part of a group for liberation of carnivorous plants, for example, and she believes that in fact carnivorous plants were a gate to summon Cthulhu. Hey, I'm making the story up as I go, okay? So don't complain. And now I want to contact the criminologist, who finds out that there is in fact a cult of carnivorous plant enthusiasts that also worship Cthulhu. Plot thickens. So this is the general idea, which I totally made up because actually each case is very different. But pretty much I could summarize the whole thing is scan stuff that will unlock content that will give you options to scan more stuff. If you scan a lot of the wrong things, you waste a lot of time. If you scan all the right things, again, it's not just simply checking things off a list, because even if you have all the right clues, you still have to put them together in your mind, in your head, to come up with a solution and to be able to answer the questions about the case that the app will ask you when the time comes. Scan away, look for clues, put them together, solve the mystery. Most importantly, think of this in truly and completely as interactive fiction. Again, don't think of it as in a gamey fashion. You still have to maximize the choices that you make, but really you have to think of this as an interactive novel, as interactive fiction, because this is how the game works. I like storytelling in games, and to me, I've seen the last couple of years games getting more and more going towards the idea, in fact, of interactive fiction, games truly being about the story. Chronicles of Crime, I will spare no words in saying that is an achievement. To me, is a new step. I haven't played every detective game that is out there. I'm trying to, or maybe at some point I'll manage to. But I don't remember being so engrossed in a mystery game so much. I don't know other games in the genre that tell you a story that is so convincing, that is so multi-layered, that is so subtle, and that really gets you the sense that you are there. A story, I don't know the games that are so immersive that you really feel like you are in this place and you're talking to people. The game doesn't really have exactly an AI in the sense that you are just unlocking content that has been placed there before you ever started. As far as I know, I don't see that really there is a procedurally generated content, but it feels that way. It really feels as you're selecting what you're talking about, and you discover new things, and you think, wait a second, maybe the person was lying, or that person, I should have asked them about that clue which I didn't have yet. And you go back and you talk to them, and there's almost again a way in which after a while you really get the sense that you're talking to these people, which to me is remarkable. I also like text adventures, digital text adventures, in which you input open door, the door is locked, enter door, I don't understand, grab handle, you don't see that, push the door, you cannot do that. If you play text adventures, they're awesome. They also have this idea of the mystery that you're unraveling very often, but there's also a lot of word guessing. There are a lot of times in which simply the keyword that you're trying to find is not the one that you had in mind. You have the idea that comes, like, I want to open the flipping door. You just can't figure out the right word and can be frustrating. Here, you want to talk about a certain item, beep, scan it. You don't have to figure out the word. So it really becomes about the logic. I have to say, this is a system that is so smooth because it really allows you to access the content so easily, so intuitively. You start learning how to talk to these characters in a way that I was surprised how intuitive and smooth and immersive it was. I really got the sense that I was this detective that was interrogating these people, looking for them, asking them, where do I find that person? And then discovering certain evidence, and then follow a lead and see if the lead goes cold and try to figure out something else. It reminded me in a certain sense of Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective, also because of the interaction you have between some stable allies that you always have. Here is the doctor, the criminologist, and so forth, and other people that pretty much you have to discover and go to talk to. And you can watch my video for Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective if you want to get a sense of how much I love that game. And I will tell you this, I think Chronicles of Crime is even better. I think it's better than that classic because it is that classic 2.0. It has all of the advantages, all of the beauty, the conceptual sophistication of Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective in a format that, thanks to the app, thanks to the electronic supporting system, is just smoother, is more intuitive, is more straightforward, is more streamlined. In Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective also sometimes you do get stuck, and still there are times in which you may feel a little bit cumbersome. Or if nothing else, if there's a time-based story, then you have to keep track of time. Here, pretty much the game system and the app takes care of all the quote-unquote the boring stuff, all the management, so that you can really emphasize, you can really pay attention to the story and the characters, etc., etc. Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective always had this beauty of being, yes, so immersive, so much about the story. Chronicles of Crime does something similar and does it in such a smooth, such an intuitive way. I would say it really reduces, it makes the interface almost invisible, and so that you can access the theme right away. Something also very important is that the mystery game is only as good, even with an excellent mechanical engine, it's only as good as the stories are. And the stories of Chronicles of Crime are really good. They're definitely at the level, the quality that you know from classic mystery story oriented games such as Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective. I was really engrossed in the mystery and the mysteries. This is why I immediately wanted to get everything that I could. I am eagerly awaiting for new chapters in the story. Another thing that is important to point out, maybe a turn off for somebody, but I liked it. It's a mature game in the sense that it is a real mystery. It is rated at least PG for some people. Your mileage may vary. For some people, maybe rated R. They talk about drugs. They talk about murder, of course. There are extramarital relationship. That person is a lover with that was a lover with that person, but only once, was only one night stand before the person started doing drugs, and maybe their pusher killed them or not, etc., etc. I'm making up this example. It's all made up, no spoilers. So if you're planning to play with your kids, you choose. I did play, actually, some of the scenarios I played with my 8-year-old. I just edited out some of the stuff as I read. Okay, I'm gonna read this one. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, now you can read this one. So I edited out some of the stuff. It's up to you. But one good thing is that we do at these games, in any case, the complexity is probably something that will be better appreciated by adults. And so, well, there you have it. I don't have any problem with a game that gives you a mystery that in fact is so complex that probably adults will be needed to solve them. My 8-year-old still had fun scanning, mind you, but really the mystery was too complex for her. So we have stories that are complex intellectually as puzzles and riddles, complex enough that adults are going to be the main audience. So why not to have adult games? And really most of the hobby gamers these days are adults, so to me this is perfectly fine. If nothing else, it is refreshing as opposed to other games in which you get the sense that really the story should go there. The story would lend itself towards mature themes, but the publisher, the author, shy away because we must protect the children, which of course we must. But that doesn't mean that we don't have products. We cannot enjoy stories that actually are just not for them. We enjoy them when they're not around, or we bowdlerize them a little bit, like I did for my daughter. Chronicles of Crime is an achievement. I love every case that they played in this game. I find it excellent. This is a true game that tells stories. This is true interactive fiction in the purest, in the most ideal sense. I kind of regret that my book about stories and games already came out because, well, I definitely would have included it in the book. On the other hand, the fact that my book, quote unquote, will get outdated very fast, so in any case will need to be updated because new stuff comes out that relates to the idea, it's a good thing because it does mean the storytelling and board games are two things that are still going together, continuing to converge, and actually they're converging in ways that are always new and always more exciting. Chronicles of Crime is an excellent game and definitely a very exciting development in the idea of games that tell stories.